Good afternoon, everyone. So welcome to the JSA Autumn President Day. So today we are going to have our third session of today's program, so which is about the digital transformation and the 5G application for the small business. So of course, everyone knows that this year's President Day and the 10,000 Young Persons Awards is sponsored by our generous sponsors, Huawei Ireland. So of course, this afternoon we are going to have some of the very special guests and some of the experts from Huawei and JCI to talk about this topic. Of course, before I start, the panel discussion, I would like to also introduce my super helping hand, which is the 10,000 Young Persons Awards for JSA Ireland this year, and he is the project lead of this project, Anuj. So say hi to everyone, Anuj.
Hi, everyone. Good to see everyone, and I'm very excited to have the conversation with the experts.
Very good, very good. So a brief introduction of myself. So my name is Carol, and I'm the national president of JSA Ireland for this year. So who are the guests for today's panel discussion? So let me introduce them one by one. So first of all, we have Barry Rafferty, so which is the enterprise territory and channel manager from Huawei Ireland. Welcome, Barry.
Well, thanks very much.
Yeah, and also we have Robert Ayton, which is the account manager from Huawei Ireland. Welcome, Robert.
Hi, guys.
And also we have Brian Smith, which is the director of strategy and innovation, communication, media, and technology from Accenture, which is our very own JSA Ireland national president in 2016.
Hello, great to be with you.
Welcome, Brian. And also, last but not least, so we have our special guest coming from JSA Switzerland. So Matt Berger, which is the lead project manager from Suki Group. He is also the JSA Digital Transformation Committee member for Europe. Welcome, Marcus.
Hello.
Okay, so welcome everyone. It's great to have all of you here. I believe that digital transformation and also 5Gs. These two words are it's a very hot topics. Like in the recent years, we heard a lot of people keep talking about this. So to start with, I think probably would be great to let all the audience to get to know about yourself first. So I would like to invite Barry. Maybe you can give us a short self-introduction.
Yeah, look, thanks very much, Carol, for having us here today. It's a shame we can't do this in person, but hopefully next year things will be slightly different. So, everybody, I'm Barry Rafferty. I am the territory and channel manager for the Enterprise Business Group for Huawei Ireland. I've been working in the technology industry for the last 10 years. I've worked for a couple of other big multinationals. I've also worked for smaller Irish indigenous companies based here in Ireland, very much all around digitalization and digital transformation. And that's been providing these services, everything from the hardware, from servers, compute, storage, down to the network layer. Also working on the services side of things, so everything from application services to managed services. So that's just kind of a quick background of my history. What we actually do for Huawei Ireland is very much kind of enable our partners, our channel partners, so the likes of our industry service providers or managed service providers and small carriers to, I suppose, enable and update the network connectivity. And that's a little bit of everything from our kind of larger solutions around radio and WAN and LAN access. But I suppose more so at the moment what we're seeing things around 4G, 5G, and particularly around Wi-Fi 6. So that's just a quick introduction on myself. So thanks very much, Carol.
Thank you, Barry. Loads of experience. We were going to deep into, talk about all the stories. And then moving on, I would like to invite Rob. You can go next to maybe talk a little bit of yourself.
Thanks, Carol, and thanks, guys. Delighted to be talking through these topics this afternoon. So I'm over 10 years now in Huawei Ireland. So yeah, I'm currently account manager for the business we're doing with Air, which is our largest account here in Ireland. So typically I've been focused on the large telco and operators like Air, Vodafone, Tree, supplying them with the Huawei solutions and services that build out the infrastructure basically for providing connectivity. So fixed line broadband, a lot of that would be powered by Huawei equipment. The backbones within Ireland, the 100 gig backbones that bring all the information back from the local pop sites to the data centers, a lot of that will be powered by Huawei technology. And kind of more recently, and probably more relevant to what we're talking today, we're very proud of what we're doing with Air in terms of the refresh of their mobile network. And I think the latest stat is we're 55% coverage 5G in Ireland. So we've been building that out together with Air for the last number of years, and we'll continue that over the next coming 12 months and so on. In addition to that, we do a lot in Huawei. We've also been helping data center infrastructure companies build their data center infrastructures and IT stacks. And what I've been focused on mostly for the last kind of 2 years has been around enterprise business and bringing our enterprise solutions to Irish businesses, together again with my partner Air. So I think, again, quite relevant to what we'll be talking about with SMEs. And to be honest, I suppose what I like about my job is, the company I work for are very passionate about bringing digital to everybody, every person, every home, every business. And I guess we've been working on bridging that digital divide here in Ireland now for the last 10 years. And I can definitely see step by step we're getting closer to having digital connections to everyone that needs it here in Ireland, no matter your location. And at the end of the day, that's going to enrich people's lives. So, guys, happy to talk through any of the bits and pieces today. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Rob. Lots of big brand names, and I believe that all the audience are looking forward to know more about all the experience. And moving on to our very own past national president, Brian. So when I was planning about this panel discussion, and I was like, who I can invite to be the guest speakers from JCI to talk about it, and especially from JCI Ireland. Like I know that we have so many talented members, and then I was like, okay, so the first one I definitely need to go to Brian. So I invited Brian to be the guest speaker today. So Brian, do you want to share with us what do you do from Accenture? How do you think that you are relevant to this topic?
Great, thank you, Carl, and wonderful to be with you all today. So as you say, I lead innovation for Accenture's communications and media business. So we work a lot at the biggest telcos, some of the biggest media clients around the world, and really help them transform their own business. So the topic of digital transformation and the business application of 5G is very much at the center of the kind of work we're doing today with our clients. And I think the really exciting thing is how these technologies help transform business. I mean, Robert talked about how the impact that digital can have, that is truly transforming every industry you can think about. So right from entertainment, whether it's, cinema experience or streaming platforms, right through to healthcare and education. And obviously COVID has just accelerated this more. So it's a real hot topic right now. I've worked in Accenture for 14 years, and during that time worked with a lot of big tech companies as well as some of the big platform companies like some Microsoft and Google, and then more recently a lot, as I say, with many of the telecommunications companies like Vodafone and Deutsche Telekom, who are really transforming their own businesses right now. So they're moving from being pure connectivity providers to being so much more in terms of offering consumers connected products in the home, to connecting businesses. And I think what's really exciting is just how that whole landscape is changing and changing so quickly in kind of very recent years. Within Accenture as well, I helped establish the DOC, which is our global R&D center, which is very cool because it's in Dublin, Ireland. So Accenture's global research and development center is actually here in Dublin, which is very exciting. And also JCI is where I met you, Carol, first of all, I think in New York back in 2016. I mean, it's been such a phenomenal part of my life, and it's an organization I'm very passionate about. I've really got to see so much of the world through JCI, and particularly TOIP, which is the event being held today. I think it exemplifies the best of JCI, and it really shines a light on some fantastic young talent that we have both in Ireland, and then obviously it's a global competition. And it really shows the power and impact of JCI. So I'm excited about the TOIP event later on as well. But it's wonderful to be with you today.
Thank you so much, Brian. It's a wonderful experience. So we're going to talk about it as well. So the last one. So we have our special guest coming from Switzerland, all the way from Switzerland. Matthias, like I mentioned, that he's from the JCI Digital Transformation Committee for Europe. So apart from that, I know that you're also being the lead project manager from one of the very famous Swiss company, Zuki Group. So do you like to talk about it and share about and give us a short brief self-introduction?
Thank you very much, Carol. I'm also very happy to be here, to meet all of you people and to talk with you today. To tell you a little bit about myself, I like technology since I was a child. I built my first computers when I was, 11 or something, with a lot of failure involved, but I think this is how you learn. But later I studied information technology, and I worked in a company in Zurich where I had the opportunity to see many other companies, banks, smaller companies, SMEs, and we built market data pages for them. And this is how I met Credit Suisse. And in the end, I ended up working there in different areas as a product owner. So my deepest knowledge, I would say, professional-wise, is definitely in the finance sector. But I love technology. And now with my recent change to Zuki Group, as you just mentioned, it's a global innovation service provider. So customers come to us and ask us to challenge their business, to help them on their way of real digital transformation. And there are so many cool products already invented by Zuki and awesome projects which nobody knows about, that it is from Zuki. For example, the little Nespresso milk foaming thingy. It has a little metal feather thingy inside which spins, which floats. They invented it, but it has an Nespresso logo on it now. Or if you guys maybe like winter sports, from Mammut, they have a backpack. When you come into an avalanche, you pull like a string, and there's this airbag on the back which keeps you on top, floating on the avalanche. Also invented and built by Zuki, but it has the Mammut logo on it. So I have some amazing projects in this company at the moment. I see that there might be some areas where we could use 5G. But personally, I'm very interested in digital media, and my knowledge about 5G, 4G, and the current status in Switzerland, which is not so bad, honestly, but we will talk later about that. I know a lot about it, and I'm happy to discuss with you today. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you so much. Yes, because I believe that apart from we heard about some of the use cases in Ireland, would be great to also learn something about the good examples about the 5G application from the Switzerland as well in the discussion later on. So thank you very much. So we know like all the background and also the experience from all the panel speakers for today. So let's move on to the first topic, which is like we talk about digital transformation a lot. So what digital transformation really is, like in a general term. Barry, what's your thoughts?
Well, look, digital transformation, it can mean very different things to each individual company. So if you almost take digital transformation as a journey, it's an adoption of digital technology to transform basically a business or a service. So it can be something very simple where you're replacing older technology with new technology, but it can also be a case of replacing, putting in place new technology to get rid of manual services or manual processes It can help automate, manual processes that potentially could have taken a day, a week, or a month. You're looking for it to make efficiencies in your business in some shape, way, or form. Like take for example, COVID has, it's kind of thrown a lot of companies out of their comfort zone completely, because even if you think about, we'll say, call centers and office workers, they've had to relocate. I'm here in what was my guest bedroom, which is now has been my permanent office for the last 15 months. But I'm very, very lucky that, the company I work for has, the applications already in place for us to be able to work remotely and continue doing our roles. But for a lot of companies, they probably didn't have that technology in place, so they've had to accelerate their digital transformation process, exponentially to actually be able to continue transacting business. So that's just kind of my little spin on it. But for SMEs particularly, I think it's been very challenging, the last 15 months. And I suppose if you bring it back to what Rob was talking about in his introduction, one of the things that Huawei is very good at doing is the connectivity piece. So as long as you can have a connection of some shape, way, or form to be able to access those applications, to be able to communicate, to be able to continue doing your job on a day-to-day basis, it really doesn't matter where you are in the world or where you are in Ireland. As long as you can actually gain internet access to it. Like I've seen as well, like a lot of businesses have been spun up over the last 15 months, which is amazing, because we actually have the technology there, as long as they can, again, as I say, get that connection. It's that connectivity connection, I think, is the key thing to enable digital transformation. So that's just a quick. I know Brian probably has a huge more he can actually expand on in that space, but that's kind of in essence what we've seen a lot of in the last 15 months.
Yeah, 100%. Brian, what do you think? What is digital transformation?
Yeah, no, I very much agree with what Barry was saying. I mean, in Accenture, we typically look at it through three lenses. So the first is the people side of things. And as Barry said, everyone was forced into a situation of kind of working from home was unexpected for many companies. And many organizations kind of struggled with this initially because they didn't have the systems and structures and processes set up to enable it. So I think, first of all, is people need to be at the center of any digital transformation, and that's both customers and employees. So when you think about digital transformation in business, how can that have a material impact on the end customer experience? So how can it make your customer's life better, easier, simpler, or your employees in the case of working from home? How can you give people flexibility? And if you don't, for instance, have all your applications in the cloud, and people need to be on premise, or they can't access the entire systems and structures and tools within a company online in an easy way, well, then it's you're not really enabling your people that level of flexibility. So there's a whole people lens, and with that requires a cultural shift as well, because if you're going to have X percentage of your workforce working from home, you need to have a different kind of management style. You need to develop levels of trust with your employees, and nurture new habits and new ways of working to ensure that you're accommodating for your employees. But what it can unlock for the customers is amazing, because it means that you can completely develop a new relationship with the customers. And then the second area is sort of process. So again, what processes are you developing inside of your company? So things like data can give you so much intelligence around your customers' behaviors, what they do, what their preferences are. And if you can be responsive to that, it really changes the game. And then finally, technology. So are you building the right technology stack and using the right technology to enable all of this? And I think some examples of this was just to make it real are for example, as Accenture, we're working with Discovery Health, who are a global health insurance company based in South Africa, and they have a phenomenal kind of digital bit platform for health insurance. So the old business of health insurance was selling customers, a policy, and then if they got sick, they would claim against that policy and it would cover their hospital care. But Discovery, that very mission-focused company, what they wanted to do was actually make their customers fitter, healthier individuals. First of all, because it's the right thing to do, and it's good for those individuals itself. And everyone probably could do with being a little bit more fitter, eating a little bit better, and getting more healthy. But importantly as well, it also reduces the likelihood of acquiring sort of serious illnesses. And what their program did was they gave people connected watches. They gave people, a digital lifestyle app that they could set up. They could set targets for themselves. They could set challenges. There was gamification involved, so they could, set themselves goals along with friends and share their progress and so on. And what they found was that, 40% of their customers were in a period of 6 months significantly fitter than they were beforehand. So that's a good example of how digital transformation is not just about automation inside of the business, or it's changing things from a paper base to online. What it's doing is it's unlocking a new business model. So I think that's the really exciting thing about digital transformation. Discovery are now engaging with their customers in an entirely different way, and it's no longer just about getting your health insurance and then submitting when you're sick. It's actually, how do you prevent people from getting sick in the first place, and how do you become a relevant part of your consumer's lifestyle? I think Discovery have done that really well.
Yeah, 100%. Because like what you explained, just actually touched the point that what I'm going to ask for the next questions, which is like, a lot of people, they talk about digital transformation, but they might not know about the difference between digital transformation and digitalization. So, Matthias, I know that you were involved in some other project. Do you have any insights? What would be the main differences?
Thank you very much. I think Brian just mentioned it a little bit. It's not only to take a process which maybe a company has already, which is paper-based, and make it digital with PDFs, and it's the same process with the same steps. So you didn't save anything, you didn't improve anything, you just made it digital. If you talk about digital transformation, it's about thinking how you can improve the whole. Like you take a step back, maybe the whole process has to be changed, or maybe it's irrelevant because the client need is something entirely different. And I think you mentioned it before. I can only talk about one example from banking. We had in Credit Suisse, we worked on the online banking for corporate customers. And there was this example where we found out that the number one use case of our customers was to log in, to download the electronic documents, and to log out again. So the first thing we thought how to help the customer would be to add one button on the homepage with one download link where you can just with one click download all the e-documents, the unread ones, and he can log out. But to really think about the why they do that, the real solution could be to create, I don't know, like a virtual or a secure Dropbox style folder on your computer, which is secured by a bank, trustworthy. And in there will all files will be automatically loaded in this folder. You have access from everywhere in the world to it. So there is no need anymore to log in, download, and log out again. So we basically would replace the whole process and transform the journey for the customer with this.
Yeah, 100%. So do you guys think that's right now, in Ireland, we are still in in lockdown, half lockdown. We are actually allowed to travel a little bit of cross county, but we're still in the pandemic. So do you guys think that actually during the pandemic it has the whole situation has helped to accelerate the whole digital transformation? Or any thoughts? Or maybe Brian?
Completely. If you take, for example, the Facebook marketplace and all the little companies that have actually spun out, that's everything from little furniture makers. I've actually got one of these flying elephant desks that I use at home, and these guys were actually carpenters who would go out and put out pubs and restaurants and nightclubs. But because their business was completely locked down, they were like, well, we still have wages to pay and people we want to keep employed, and we don't go on to these social welfare payments. So they transformed their business model very quickly, and they start developing desks that comes in 4 pieces that just slots together. It's called the flying elephant. You can have a look at it. Really, really cool desk. I have one. My wife has one. The floor down below. But they spun up very quickly. They're on Facebook. They were promoted heavily on LinkedIn, but they were able to set up a new website very quickly, and they were able to then transact through an e-commerce platform. They did that, I think, in less than a month. They spun up a whole new business in less than a month, quite successfully. So that's just one example that I know of where I was trying to help local businesses as well. Doing the likes of that. But you've also got, say for example, I was a member up until earlier this year of a yoga club. I live in the Lucan area in Dublin, and they actually, I think it took them about 2 months, but they got their classes up online as well. Very, very quickly, and it was all done through an application that you could use on your phone or on a tablet or on your laptop, and you could set it up and you could still log in and do your classes that way. And again, they had everything where you could transact through e-commerce on their site. There wasn't any physical contact or physical presence apart from video calling and video presence of the actual classes. So there are just a couple of quick examples of accelerated digital transformation for the SME business here in Ireland.
Yeah, 100%. Because what you answer, from the yoga class example, basically related something relevant to what Jason Ireland did this year for one of the project, which is called Feel Good Vibes, that we've tried to have some of the small business in the fitness industries to make them bring them online. So for all the members and the potential customers, they can get to know them and then attend some of the teaser class on Zoom or some other platform as well. So which is I think is a really good example that you mentioned, Barry. But I know everyone know that for SMEs, they have to apply the digital transformation in their business because it's good for them. But when they are trying to do that, what do you think that there will be some of the key challenges for them when they are trying to be digital transformation? What will be the main key challenges?
I think there could be an assumption that they don't have the skills to do it themselves. I think sometimes that can be seen as a showstopper because they think that they need to have heavy IT skills to enable themselves to do it, and that's one of the things that I work quite closely with a number of smaller kind of regionalized partners here in Ireland, where they actually can provide those types of services for them. So it can be a case of even hosting services, and and that can be spun out very quickly in different cloud platforms like Google and Amazon and Microsoft. But I think it's don't be afraid of it. Go talk to local partners who can help enable. Talk to even some of the bigger partners who you think can potentially enable you as well. Do a little bit of research. I think that can it can maybe take the what's the best way of saying it? Gaining a little bit more knowledge in that particular area. You know, have a look at what other people are doing.
I think if you actually look within an SME though, you know, there's different types of SMEs. Like some companies would have their own IT department that would have some type of a vision or a strategy for what they're doing now and what they want to achieve in terms of their digital strategy. But you'd have the other side of the spectrum then, an SME that has no expertise, and they're, you know, they're possibly suffering from the pandemic as well. So where do they even start? Do they have the right infrastructure in place, connectivity? Do they have the right people to talk to them? Is there a partner that they can reach out to give them some guidance on, okay, these are your main business services that you're providing, but you could look at another option? You know, I think that's the key thing is what are the resources available for SMEs to understand their actual digital transformation requirements, you know? Yeah.
And I think sort of building on that, I think one of the issues is probably for some of the SMBs to think about their business in the same lens in this new world and shifting it digital, rather than actually opening up to what's possible and reframing almost the potential of their business. I mean, Barry, you talked about the yoga classes. I was speaking with my guitar teacher, and he was basically saying before, I mean, essentially previously his business involved, you know, students calling to his home for an hour-long class. Now that his business has gone virtual, he actually has a global customer base. So he's teaching people all over Europe right now. So the scope and the potential audience size of his customers have just expanded massively as a result of this. Likewise, even I've seen some like small bakeries go online, where previously, again, they would have sold to the local area, and now they're sort of shipping all over the county or the country. So I think it's really powerful. I think the key thing is to understand actually how can you use this to considerably grow your business and open up new markets, new opportunities, and also thinking about the data that you're building and that relationship with the customer. I mean, so many SMBs lived exclusively in the physical world before, so they didn't really understand their customers. They maybe perhaps didn't know the demographics of their customers or where they lived. But now that you can build all these data and insights around your customer base, you can, you know, attract new customers. You can sell more to your existing customers. It's really quite powerful. But as I think Robert and Barry made a very good point, you know, it's important to understand who are the partners that can help you along this journey, and what are the tools that can help you, because you ideally, as an SMB owner, you have so many considerations and you're juggling so many balls in the air. You kind of want to simplify your life somewhat. But the great thing is now, from big platform companies, from technology companies, there's so many support and tools and education and training, and much of it's actually free, that you can sort of tap into, as well as there's communities forming to help each other around this. And of course, organizations like JCI, Carol, am I right in saying, is a good network, you know, for people to share ideas and practices and experiences.
And that's why we are here today. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Brian. I know Anush is here. So Anush is here. That means we have some questions from the floor.
Perfect. So I think I'll just put the question on the floor, and whoever wants to take it first. So I'll put it on the screen as well. And question is from Claire, and she asked that, you know, during the pandemic, we found that we have greatly enhanced the communication with current B2B partners through digital technology. So one of the big challenges at the moment is connecting with them and building relationships, because you're not meeting them face to face or personally. So it's definitely more challenging. And what's your views and advice on this? How can 5G or, you know, digital transformation help overcome this barrier when you're not meeting your client face to face, you know, meeting them virtually?
Yeah, I'll give you a laugh. Just before we came in to to have this discussion with you, this was actually a topic that we were talking as a group internally as, because what we think after the pandemic is going to happen is that you're going to have kind of a hybrid world where people will be using these, you know, digital platforms for communication an awful lot more, because it cuts down a huge amount of travel time, and it enables you to potentially meet more people at the same time. But in saying that, there's still the need for that physical one-to-one relationship building. And I think there is a little bit of pent-up demand from people who actually want to go out and interact physically with people. We're social beings, and ideally all of us would prefer to be in a room with you all to socialize with you at the end of the talk and have coffee or drinks and just general chat. So I think it is something that I think we're all facing those similar challenges with on a day-to-day basis and trying to build relationships with people. The only thing that I personally do is just try to keep in constant communication with my partners, with my customers, that as well as having expanded virtual meetings that I do one-to-one phone calls with them as well. So that's what I personally do. I don't know what the rest of the guys feel.
Yeah, Barry, on that, I think that human communication piece I think is really important, and it can be difficult on digital platforms, but you almost need to ensure that you're still having that kind of water cooler or coffee moment. Like generally before, when I met clients, you go and have a coffee first and maybe then have a meeting. So I think you almost need to have the same amount of time on a virtual space to do that, to actually get to know somebody personally and understand them and their world. Because sometimes in the world where we're kind of scheduling back-to-back Zoom calls with another, it's tempting to go straight into business, and then you really miss that human connection and that link. So I think it's important to ensure that you are building that trust, because for so long we couldn't meet people, or if we're dealing with people internationally, and indeed so many employees have started working. And many of my colleagues in Accenture have actually joined Accenture during the pandemic and have never met anyone face to face. So I think using the digital tools, but having those kind of offline conversations as well, as Barry said, or just calling someone on a phone sometimes for a chat, is important.
Very good. So we have one more follow-up questions coming from Claire and Uch, isn't it? So
yes. So basically, Claire is asking, so how do we create that social aspect online with the new business partners? So as you said, Brian, say for example, employees who are getting hired during the pandemic, it's that the entire onboarding is virtual. Like they've never been into the office, never met anyone. Like they don't know anything about the company culture. It's weird. Like I cannot even imagine. So if you're meeting somebody new, if you're breaking a new kind of client, like locking a new deal, how important? How can you create that social bondage? Is augmented reality the way? Because obviously we're moving forward, towards it. So probably that's where we are going, augmented reality and that kind of stuff.
I don't know. I can take this one maybe, because I know nearly overnight, March 2020, we went from meeting people face to face to not, and we had to totally transform the way we engage with our customers and our partners, So we've done a lot of stuff in the last year that might be relevant to that question, and in terms of the social side of things. Like, I don't know, we've been really racking our brains and thinking of the best ways to keep up that social engagement. And we've put together things like virtual cocktail making classes, virtual whiskey tastings, even virtual painting lessons. Because at the end of the day, well, my job in Huawei is to keep an engagement with our customers, be that existing customers or totally new customers that you've never met before. So. Yeah, I think touch on what Brian and Barry mentioned, the one-to-one, I guess, phone call or maybe an outdoors, COVID friendly social distancing meeting is important. But I think there's other things that we can try to do, using the tools available to us, and definitely the virtual. I think everybody's probably sick of the virtual Zoom quiz and all that. It's been done to death. But there's a lot of other interesting things that you can do if you think outside the box a little bit,
I might okay.
I was going to say, Rob is actually the king of virtual events for where we are. I've attended a couple of his events. They're extremely good. The feedback you get from customers attending is so positive, because it's just a little break from the norm.
It works. It actually works very well. We were a bit I suppose nervous when we started doing them if they would work well or not. And yeah, no, the feedback has been very good for if it's prepared and planned right and on that type of thing. It's very worthwhile. Yeah.
And I think one question for Matthias. Matthias, yeah. Sorry.
I just would add one point to that.
Yeah.
Sorry, one point. I just started a new job on the 1st of April this year, so I know exactly what you're talking about. I didn't meet all of my team ever. Like, I was in the office for one day to get my laptop, and now I was there for another half a day to get my official company picture taken, and that was it. So the only things we did, we had so many meetings, and of course Zoom and Microsoft Team meetings. But in Switzerland, there's a tradition you might have heard about. It's called apéro. So when you have like a very long workshop, let's say a PI planning or whatever, it is normal that you afterwards meet up at the bar at the same spot or somewhere close, and you have a drink and you socialize. You talk a little bit business, you talk a little bit private. You have that personal connection, that social aspect, which you not have at the moment in Zoom. I would say 95 or 98% of the Zoom calls we have are just business. We're sitting in our room. You don't see how tall people are. When I first met my boss, when I got my laptop, I saw him already 3 times in a video call. And the first thing he said was like, "Oh, I didn't know that you were that tall." Like, you don't have that, you don't have that feeling when you see somebody in a camera. So I personally believe if we would get to that point very soon that you could meet in virtual reality or mixed reality. I don't know if you people know the movie Kingsman, where they have this meeting room everywhere in the world. It's the exact same room. Everybody has their dedicated place, and they sit there with mixed reality glasses, and you basically sit in the room with the people. You see them sitting there in real life, kind of. Maybe this would help a little bit in the social aspect, and you could do more. But what I want to say about the social aspect and the apéro, which is not possible at the moment, they sent home to each of the members of this meeting a cocktail mixing set. And afterwards, we met in this page called GatherTown. You can imagine it as like a little 8-bit game, and you are in a bar. You can walk around. When you're close to people, you can communicate with them. You can walk away. Some circles are created, like some mini talk circles. And you can just walk around like in a real bar, in a real social event. And this gave us also a little bit of this apéro feeling back. But of course, the real thing, we're not there yet. Thank you.
Yeah, 100% totally agree with you, Martis. With some a good example there. So before we move on to the next area of the panel discussion for today, so I think we also have some questions coming from the floor, but we will adjust that later on. So the next part, we will talk about 5G, because like everyone know that Huawei is a pioneer in the 5G area. So what do you think? Like, what is 5G in a simple word? Like, when you're talking about 5G to some of the people who is not having the technical background, so how are you going to explain to them what is 5G in the simple words?
Well, I'll take that, Carol. Yeah. I suppose the first thing I always say is it's more than just faster. Everybody sees the headline adverts. It's very fast connection. I think the way I try to explain it is if you look back at the different generations like 2G, 3G, 4G, what were the differences in those leaps? So if you start with 2G, you were able to make a voice call from a mobile device. 3G basically introduced kind of data consumption from a mobile device, and kind of apps were born, kind of, and apps that were consuming data. 4G was just basically boosting that completely, and you see services like video streaming and all that, and the ecosystem that we're living in today in terms of digital and apps is fueled by 4G. So the leap from 4G to 5G is just going that bit beyond even a more immersive experience, I guess, for consumers and businesses, and these type of applications and functions that you can do from mobile devices, but then from a whole host of other connected devices. So it's a technology now that's being rolled out that is utilizing, it's based off physics, you know, as all the other radio comms technologies are, but it's utilizing the spectrum better, and allowing for much more connections so that devices can connect and talk to each other much more easily and much more faster, with less delay. So it just enables all these new types of services that can be provided. And that's kind of how I try to explain it, you know. And then the types of services then that we hear a lot about that can be enabled in 5G is a little bit like what Matthias was mentioning. Like VR would be one of them, you know, where maybe that can be something like that, you know, physical meeting room virtually, you know. Once VR technology becomes more mainstream to consumers and businesses, and we're adopting it more, you'll see more providers of this type of a service. You know, healthcare then is another one, you know. So you know, just telehealth is a big industry now, you know, where, you know, you could have a patient on one end of a 5G link, broadcasting a video, you know. For example, I'll give an example. If the patient has a skin condition, the doctor at the other end can see with the proper definition to see skin tone differences, you know. You know, and that'll have a huge impact on society if less people are in waiting lists to see, you know, consultants and stuff like that, medical consultants. So that's just two examples, you know. There's a lot of examples of the services that 5G will enable, you know. I hope that was clear, you know. And that's the way I always try to explain it, is the different leaps in the generations of mobile technology, you know. Yeah.
That's very good, Rob. So Brian, I know that you're in the gaming, you know, in the media and comms. Any use cases from Accenture about like streaming?
Yeah, I think it's, and building on what Robert said, I think it's 5G. It's important to see it as sort of I think it's a very much significant leap from 4G. So while 4G was definitely an advancement on 3G, and it helped, you know, streaming, so we could all look at Netflix on our phones a little bit faster and better. I think 5G is more of a transformational leap. So it's sort of a quantum adjustment in terms of what's possible, and we're at the very, very early stages. So, you know, Accenture's working with clients across all industries, health, education, retail, on potential use cases. And for the industry now, the big question is, you know, what are these use cases and how do we make money from it? I think that's what the telcos are asking right now. So they're probably asking Robert and Barry that question all the time. They're saying, this is brilliant technology, how do we monetize it? And I think we're at the early stages of that, because I think if we look at the journey of 5G from a consumer perspective, you know, many of us are only, you know, getting 5G services now in the last couple of months for the first time. So I think it'll take some time. Most of these generational shifts that Robert outlined in terms of network technology typically are about 10 years, you know, from sort of the initial trials to full mainstream adoption to, you know, the next generation. So it's early stages, and I think that's important to consider, because there's a lot of hype around it, and maybe some people are feeling, I don't understand all the sort of use cases yet, or I haven't seen the value from it. I think that's a lot of this is coming, so it's at the experimentation stage. But in the next 12 to 24 months, I think we're going to see a lot more real scaled use cases of this. I think some of the exciting ones on the consumer side are things like even retail. So if you've seen things like some of these smart mirrors that you can have, so if you're, you know, you can essentially try on clothes at home. Because if you think of the current experience of buying, you know, clothes online, as many of us have had to do over the last couple of months, since you can't go into a store, you can't try things on, you're essentially looking at a flat screen and you're kind of flicking through different shirts and understanding the colors and the sizes, and you're kind of wondering, will they fit you? You're hoping, you know, will they match? But, you know, imagine if you could actually visually see these in a smart mirror in your home. Robert talked about healthcare as well, and the definition. I mean, there's a lot of smart mirrors looking at like the healthcare space as well, so that even when, you know, they'll advise you on brushing your teeth in the evening time to see if you're brushing them the right way, or if you have, you know, any spots on your skin, they can actually begin to diagnose these in an intelligent manner. So I think there's an entire new plethora of use cases that we'll see. At the moment, it's about speed, and you'll see the advertisements talking about, you know, downloading a movie in, you know, 5 seconds rather than, you know, 1 minute. But I think what's going to be exciting over the next 2 or 3 years are these sort of new use cases and a lot's going to be around entertainment space. So the media space, entertainment space, I think sporting will be transformed. AR, VR, as was discussed. Imagine if you could essentially, put on a headset and sit courtside at Wimbledon. So you're no longer looking at, just a standard static TV camera. You're essentially feel like you're sitting there in center court looking at the players play. That's the type of technology that is possible with 5G. Connected stadiums. We've done a lot of work in the US with some of the football teams around connecting stadiums as well. So fans can get different experiences while they're in the stadium through, using their phones. So I think there's a lot of exciting potential there, but we're still at the relatively early stages.
Yeah, so but in general, my very last questions before we move on to the Q&A, which is, do you think that, like, for now, at the moment, do you think that Europe is 5G ready in general?
I think Matthias can answer that one, but I think what we can say about Ireland. So if you look at some of the government, what the government has been talking about over the last 12 months around rural regeneration plans and people relocating from urban areas further into the country, as Rob pointed out earlier on there, with Air, I think we've 55% coverage of Ireland at the moment with 5G capabilities. So I think what you're going to see is, I think you're going to maybe see a better spread of the population, because there won't be a need for people to be potentially in offices in Dublin 100% of the time, where it might be a little bit more commuter friendly. It'll enable businesses who are in rural areas, as Brian pointed out earlier, to be global if they want. All of a sudden they'll have access to different markets that they potentially didn't have before. They'll be able to access applications that they didn't have before. Like the whole thing around smart devices as well, and the Internet of Things, it can open up a huge amount of different possibilities. So I think in Ireland, I think we're heading in the right direction. I think that the carriers that we're working with here are doing the right things. The smaller providers who we're working with are doing the right things as well. So I think it's not something that we can flick a switch and everybody can have connectivity, but it's been rolled out in an extremely fast fashion. Like they want, it is important that people are connected. It has been done.
The infrastructure is the first thing, really, that the widespread infrastructure availability, and that's ongoing now. And I think behind that, then actually the situation in Ireland, I think, is quite typical to most countries in Europe as well. Now there's some countries that are a little bit more advanced in terms of their 5G readiness, but I think the ecosystem, then the actual user ecosystem, is kind of in line with how the infrastructure is rolling out. I think it's about 22% of I think it's around that 1 in 5 handsets now in Ireland is a 5G ready handset, and we've surpassed half the population with coverage. The early adoption, though, is still quite low, and that's typical across Europe. I think in Ireland it's 4% of people actually are paying for 5G contracts, consumers. So I think step by step the infrastructure will be more widespread, where you're reaching nearly full population coverage. You've got the ecosystem there. So I'd say by this Christmas, more phones will be 5G than not 5G. When people are purchasing their smartphones at Christmas, is usually a boom. And then it's really, when are the users going to start realizing what features and apps they want to use now with this new technology, and the services will be more accessible. I don't know, Matthias, is it similar in where you're seeing in your part of the world, or?
So I nodded my head when you asked if Europe is ready for 5G. I just nodded because Switzerland, I think, in the worldwide comparison, is on the second place with a coverage of apparently 90%. Of course, we have the problem that most of the devices you get at the moment are not 5G ready yet, or the newest models are. In Switzerland, we have, I think, still nearly 50% of iPhone users, and they're known for buying always the newest model. So I guess at least 50% will have 5G phones very soon. I personally have one, and I enjoy it. I'm not so sure how it will be or is on mountain areas, where there's one farm in a circle of 5 kilometers. If they have already 5G, I understand that the tests are done in the big cities first, and I see the coverage improving from time over time a lot. I lived at the Lake of Constance at the German border first and traveled every day by train to Zurich, and I used 4G, I used 3G with my phone and tried to read some emails, and it was a pain sometimes, and there was a hole in between 5 to 10 minutes where there's absolutely no internet. And meanwhile, I mean, you can stream games, the prettiest games on your mobile device. And I want to add one more point, going back one step. Sorry for that, but one of, in my opinion, biggest steps might be in the future, and you see it already. All of the calculation-intensive software, which is now moving to the cloud. Let's say Microsoft Office. The whole Office is now available in a browser. It doesn't matter what computer you have, what processor, what graphics card. Maybe in half a year, the next iPhone might cost only $100 because it's only a battery, a network chip, and a display, maybe a camera in between. Every calculation will be done somewhere in the cloud, and it will just be streamed back to your phone. Chromebooks, for example, the notebooks for $100, which you can do everything in a browser. So yeah, I see huge potential coming up.
Very good, very good. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's good to learn about how Switzerland works over there, the 5G situation. So before we close the session, I know that I can see that from my screen here, we have loads of questions coming from the floor. So Anush, would you like to take one or two questions? And then
Perfect.
Yeah.
Actually, Matthias, that last statement actually scared me when you said that everything will go on cloud. Like, I won't have local copies of my stuff, which is scary. Yeah, okay, so we have one very interesting question. Actually, I think, Brian, we kind of touched upon on this a little bit. So in a digital transformation, where should we start? As I said, this is like in a nascent stage, like the industry, So what should be the first step?
It's a great question, actually. To me, always start with people. So that's your customers and your employees, and that's where you should start. So how can you make the experience better for your customers, and how can you make life better for your employees? And that's where you need to start. So you need to think about that, and then the technology comes afterwards. So start with people and work from there with the technology.
Okay, that's perfect. Anybody else on this, very?
I mean, in the UX design or design thinking, you start always with the problem statement, right? So what is the problem of the customer I want to solve? Maybe this problem changed because of a pandemic or because technology aspects. So if you already solve a problem, you can also rethink maybe the problem is changed, or you can even solve a different problem with technology. And from there on, you just have to be creative and maybe have to hire the right people who help you there. So we have two people already, Accenture, Züke, two very big companies, good companies who can help like SMEs and also bigger companies to transform.
Okay. So we have two questions actually now, but both of them kind of are similar. So basically what the audience is asking is that, because 5G is kind of opening up kind of more connections between devices, more devices can speak to each other, and it's a more interconnected world, obviously. So there'll be more kind of loopholes, and there are more possibilities for cyber attacks and those kind of things. So is our cyber security gonna catch up with the speed with which 5G is gonna get implemented as well?
Yeah, it's a hot topic, particularly what's going on with the hospitals here in Ireland, and over in the States as well, with the pipeline. Yeah, I know. I think definitely, 5G technology, much like any other technology, when you're designing it, the architecture, is being made to protect data as much as possible, and shield against external external bodies trying to access that data. So it comes down to, you know, architecture of your network design and all the security kind of robust things you put in place then as you design and build out your network. You know, it's obviously it's one of the priority tasks that the network architecture team will have when they're rolling out these networks. You know. Yeah.
And I think that's been one of the big shifts and changes in mindset around security in recent years, is actually, as you say, Robert, to build it in at the start of the process, you know, with dev, SecOps and so on, is actually start with, you know, security solution rather than building your product, your service, your solution, and then understanding what security protocols or layers need to be built around it. Start with the security while you're building, and then you can ensure that sort of robustness. But for sure, I mean, this space is only going to get more and more I think relevant in the years ahead, and we're going to see more of these type of hackers and ransomware cases. So security is a very hot topic. As everything becomes connected with 5G, it becomes increasingly important. So I think all organizations will need to probably increase the level of investment in security spending and in terms of thinking how to ensure, particularly for customer data and sensitive data, that they're looking after that and protecting that.
Yeah, and kind of not just at the kind of data center kind of core level, all the way out to the end user and end device. You know, it's end-to-end security. You know? Yeah.
To give one little counter argument to that, to this old discussion. Should I save all of my pictures of my phone on my phone, or should I upload it to Google Cloud or Apple Cloud or whatever? I have to say I upload everything to Google Cloud because I believe that the Google servers are much more safe and secured than my phone or my personal computer, where I have set the Windows password. You understand what I mean? Like, privately, we're not that safe. And in a company like Google or Facebook or Amazon, they have a security infrastructure which is ridiculous, but the data there is collected, so maybe it's a more attractive target for hackers. So nobody would try to hack my phone. I mean, what do you want from my phone? But from Amazon, if you have the amount of data, maybe this is, I don't know, more attractive. But of course, security infrastructure is definitely a big topic as well upcoming.
Yeah, I think as Rob and Brian just said, I think if you do it at the start, and if you're using a partner to enable your digital transformation, that's got to be one of the key things that you lay out from the start. How is it secure? Who's managing that security? And where is it being kept? Especially if you're holding customer data, because it's just so important, just to keep things secure.
And it's a new thing as well when we talk about this acceleration of digital transformation, particularly for SMBs over the last year. So many SMBs are, as we discussed, are now going virtual and building online presence for the first time. They're highly susceptible to attack. And we're partnering actually with Vodafone around providing security services to SMBs for that purpose right now. Because for many SMBs, they're again grappling with maybe selling, transacting online, or rolling out the first CRM or building the first CRM system to contact customers. So they are susceptible right now, and I think security needs to be a key consideration. And the good thing is as well, I think Europe is very much aware of this and concerned about it. And as part of the EU recovery funding that we're seeing being released across Europe right now, there is a big focus on, I think, improving connectivity. So I think we'll see more 5G and more fixed line fiber into our homes, which is really good, but also security. And I think Europe has traditionally sort of led on data privacy, and there's a great opportunity to lead on security as well.
Where we go?
Yeah, that's perfect. Carol, I don't think we have a lot more questions from Claire, but I don't know if we have the time to cover all of them.
I can see that we have so many other questions from other members and friends as well on Facebook and also on some other channels. But I think that if any members would like to ask the speakers about any questions about digital transformation and 5G. So feel free to connect with them on LinkedIn. So you guys can, like ask more questions and figure out like how can you apply the digital transformation of 5G in maybe your company or in your workplace. So it's great. So once again, thank you so much, Barry, Robert, and Brian, also Matthias, for being here with us today and to share about all your experience, stories, use cases, and examples of like from all your expertise and experience. So thank you so much for attending this panel discussion. And also, once again, thank you very much for all the audience for watching this live streaming on Facebook and YouTube and LinkedIn. Before we close the session, I want to also do a little bit of promotion and what is coming up next for this evening. So this evening at 7 p.m. Ireland time. So we are going to kickstart the JSTAR Ireland 10,000 Young Persons Award ceremony. So in the evening time, we are going to announce who are the 10 winners for this year to be the awardee for the 10,000 Young Persons Award. So it's going to be a very big event. Online, of course, so feel free to come back to JSTAR Ireland Facebook page and also our YouTube channel to watch the live streaming. It's going to be a great, fun, fancy event. Like yesterday, we were on a rehearsal, so I guarantee that it's going to be a very, very good event. So once again, thank you so much for all the speakers and also our sponsor from Huawei for supporting this panel discussion. So for all the members around the world, you'll be able to listen again on the JSTAR Ireland Facebook page, and also Anuj is going to upload this video on the YouTube channel. So everyone, see you later in the evening time.
Thanks a lot, guys.
And thank you.
Thank you very much.
See you later.
Thank you.